Yes, indeed. I did just go through the whole introduction and I was not live. All right. I am at times a real bonehead, but I'm blonde, so I get a pass every now and then, right? So sorry about that. Let me get the music off and get it out of our way. Welcome, everybody. I have already done my introduction once, and you couldn't hear it because I was not live. So my apologies to you. I did, in fact, brave the Houston traffic trying to get home by 8 o'clock, and I was 5 minutes late. And then by the time I put everything down and jumped on the computer, here we are. So thank you for being here. Thank you for waiting on me. I appreciate it more than you know. Critters, I saw your message about Prince Harry testifying today. So as soon as we get done with this live, that'll be the next thing I do is look at the goings on across the pond, right? Hey Sammy, welcome. Hi Callie Connect, DB, Skedinona, welcome. All right, so hey Diane. Okay, so I know there's a lot of other people up here too. Kathy R, Kathy, Daniel Kelly. I would be looking into the family that he settled a wrongful death lawsuit with 1 month after his kidnapping. That is very interesting, Daniel Kelly. However, you do realize it was probably his insurance company that settled, but it is very interesting to consider who would get angry enough at the good doctor to kidnap him and try to throw him off a bridge. Correct? All right. Hey, Crypto Channel, welcome. Glad to have you here. Okay. So it's very interesting. The feed. I'm gonna tell you straight up. Okay. I'm nervous about this whole thing. It makes me nervous because this is such a curious story. And the interview by Richard Forsyth, it too is quite curious. And there's a real danger. I gotta be careful how I say this. Let me say it this way. There are some situations where someone may come across as being a bit aloof or perhaps a little bit detached, and it not have anything to do with nefarious or cold-hearted purposes. Not everyone who is emotionally a little bit subdued is a psychopath. I really need to do the video on this whole psychopath issue so y'all can kind of recognize in what circumstances are we looking at a certain behavior that looks to be a psychopathy as opposed to other conditions like, I don't know, Asperger's syndrome. Brilliant people whose brains are not really wired toward the social realm and more toward ideas and processes. And sometimes they can appear a little bit removed. So we have to be careful. We need to tread gently and be very, 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 very clear that no one is pointing their finger at Richard Forsyth and saying he did anything wrong. Nobody is saying that. No one is saying that. The past video that I did and then this one tonight is very specific to this. There are approximately 5 very good possibilities for who would have wanted the young doctor gone. And in reality, there is probably 7 or 8 overall possibilities for who did this. This is, in fact, a true modern mystery. This is an amazing story. And yes, I think the general consensus is that some of what Richard Forsyth said seemed to be counterintuitive. It seemed to be rehearsed, perhaps a little too detached at times, and he does contradict himself. In the beginning, he says, I don't know why anybody would want to hurt my brother. He's the greatest guy. Everybody at the hospital's wondering. Nobody would want to punch him or hurt him or do anything. But then toward the end, we're told the guy was literally kidnapped and somehow made this nefarious deal with, like what we have in our minds of the mobster underworld, right? I mean, it's odd. I don't know of another way to say it in a more accurate term. It's just odd. And I can promise you that the police, they always start with the people closest to the victim. If you agree with that, put a 1. If you disagree, put a 2. I'm willing to entertain disagreement, of course. What do you mean there's arrests? Arrests in what? I did see that. Yeah, that his first victim was a little 8-year-old girl about, was it like 15 years ago maybe? Very cool. Okay. Hey, Natalie Elizabeth, welcome. Hola, ¿cómo estás, Hybrid Pisces? Mary McGuire, welcome. I just watched Jerry Maguire the other night. Show me the money. All right. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Daisy Sunshine. Sunshine on my shoulder. I can't sing yet. Hey, DB. All right. And as for me and you, I hope, no, that's not an as for you and me. I hope we never see old DB Cooper out there. All right, there we're done. Hey, Justice Jane, welcome. All right, so let's start with, we got 2 things we're doing. We're finishing Richard Forsyth's interview that was done less than 24 hours after learning his brother was dead. And we have a, oh my God, Sammy, you're a sweetheart. Thank you. Makes me so happy. I very rarely get super chats or anything like that. So I have to buy a new microphone. And so that's what I'm, waiting on, is to have enough money to get me a microphone. So thank you, Sammy. You're the most awesome person in the channel right now. Thank you. Hey, Charlie Faith, welcome. It's good to see you. Okay, so, and then the other thing is, one of our community members took to heart this whole assignment of watching the Pascal show, taking notes, so that we could then go down this crazy rabbit hole of Ruja, the crypto queen, and the crypto doctor, and oh my gosh, the crypto community in Ecuador. I mean, this is a story. This is going to be the story that just keeps on giving, if you know what I mean. It's crazy. So she wrote an amazing, I'm just going to call it a paper. I mean, her evaluation of the overall interview is so on point and perfect that I wanted to present it to the whole community, because it's great. It's super. All right, so let's finish the video first, or the interview. So let me get it pulled up. And I think you guys can see that. Make sure we got the sound up.
And hiking and things like that. That was not his thing at all.
Gotcha.
He, in fact, really wasn't he didn't really like vacation very much. He thought it was tedious, and it distracted from his real interest in mathematics.
He liked to work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he liked working.
Now, I will tell you one thing. I get very nervous. I have a cough drop in my mouth, so I apologize if y'all can hear it. I get very nervous when people rely on stereotypes. If you know what I'm talking about, put a 1. When people rely on stereotypes to try and tell a story, that is a big red flag to me that perhaps, maybe, they're not really telling the whole truth. Why would one need to fall back on stereotypes if what you're doing is simply relaying truth, right? Because what a stereotype does is it gives you a visual. It's a, how do I want to say this? It's an icon. A stereotype is an icon that sends a message to you. It's a way to communicate conceptually. Oh, he's a nerd. You know how those old wild and crazy nerds can be. Well, what's the picture of a nerd in your head? All this focus on all he cared about was math. All he wanted was math. He's just a big old nerd and math. Well, that is a picture that's saying nerds are not violent. Nerds don't do nefarious things. Nerds don't get in bed with Russian mafia. Do y'all agree or disagree? It is the way to communicate when you don't want to get pinned down on details. He's painting this picture of John as this little nerdy little guy hiding in some basement. All he's thinking about is math and no sex, no women, no drugs, no money, dirty money laundering nonsense, no fraud, no exploitation. You know how those nerds are, people. Those nerds just like to sit around and crunch numbers. It's a way to use stereotypes. It's a way to communicate without telling the facts. Now then, so without ever having watched Richard Forsyth in any interview anywhere, whenever I'm talking to someone and their story relies on stereotypes, they do this whole method of communication. Well, you just know how those old engineers are, don't you? You know what they're like. Oh, let me tell you about my husband, the engineer. What do I have to tell you? You see what I mean? And I'm like, well, no, I actually don't know what engineers are like because they're all quite different. Why don't we just bypass the stereotypes and you just tell me all about your husband, Mark? You see what I mean? So anytime I am face to face with someone who is using stereotypes to communicate a concept to me, my red flag warning goes up and I say, this person may not be on the up and up. This person may be wanting to mislead me without getting bogged down in details that might be able to come back later on and say, hey, you lied about this or you lied about that. Okay? And this makes me very nervous in this interview, the over-reliance on stereotypes. He wants us to have a picture of John as a guy who would never get involved with someone that might be living a dangerous lifestyle. And yet, when you go back to the Wayback Machine and some other databases, their cryptocurrency website, the number one country of people that were visiting that website was from the damn Russian Federation. The Russian Federation. Not the United States, not Ecuador, not Brazil, Russia, Romania, Ukraine. That's bothersome. I don't care who you are. Strange. Given the fact that this doctor was working 24 hours in a 36-hour time period consistently. He's an older, 49 years old. That tells me this is a man who was in money straits. I know he's a big millionaire. He was in Forbes as a crypto millionaire. But when you get into his story, what you will find out is it dates back to 2010 when he is still in college and he gets on the ground floor of Litecoin. That is where his millions came from. Not because in the last 5 years he's been so damn brilliant. All right? So I'm feeling uncomfortable with this communication style, but some people do talk in stereotypes. So you still can't point a finger and say you're lying. It just makes you uncomfortable.
That makes sense.
Him in a lake is nonsense.
Yeah, no, I get that. Because of course where he was found in that area and all that does make you wonder. I mean, from being 20 miles away from where he was last seen alive seems a bit off kilter. Or, allegedly where he was allegedly last seen alive was 20 miles away from Beaver Lake. It just seems, that distance seems a bit odd unless.
And I can tell you something about this whole suicide angle. Someone drove him to the lake. It's that simple. His car is left close there. It's got his wallet, all his credit cards, his driver's license, his passport, his computers, 2 of his telephones. The door is left open and the keys to the RV are in the car with all of these other things that nobody would ever leave unattended. And someone took him to the lake. No, the man did not commit suicide.
There's another hospital down that area or something that he was working for or working at. But it seems, from what we understand, seems a bit off kilter that he would be down there, right?
What you reading, Richard?
Yeah. This is
what you reading there?
Seems a bit off.
Watch.
It just seems that distance seems a bit odd unless there's another hospital down that area
reading,
or something that he was working for or working at.
See it?
But it seems, from what we understand, seems a bit off kilter that he would be down there, right? Yeah. This is a very, very, very. It's a very odd series of events, but very tragic at the same time. And of course, from what we understand, how from what you said, which you said beautifully about John, is that he was just a good guy that really loved his job, loved his work, loved math. You guys were working on things as far as business to do something really, really interesting and really exciting with cryptocurrency, and I'm sure possibly other endeavors as well. It's tragic and it's heartbreaking to hear that he's been snatched from the world in the way that he has been. Have they said anything about, could it be self-inflicted, this gunshot wound, or otherwise?
The police are being very careful about what they say, especially opinions that are not substantiated by evidence, and in particular medical evidence.
They always look at the people closest to the victim first.
We reject the notion of suicide because of the context of his life. He had all kinds of projects that he was passionate about, that he was excited about, he was optimistic about, that he lived for, that gave him purpose and identity. And
So his 8
and
children,
there's
his
his kids. He
ex-wife,
adored
and
his
his
kids. He had
current
he had
fiance didn't give
an
him
airline
meaning.
ticket to go see his kids on the Monday following his disappearance. He talked a lot about it. He planned to reconnect with an old friend out there. They had plans. He and I had plans for getting together real soon. We were working on a renovation of a building, a project that he and I have been talking about for about 10 years. We've been dreaming about it. It's just been a personal thing for the two of us, and he was excited. And then there's his work on digital security. It was his holy grail. The idea
The
of him
guy's
walking
got a
away
lot
from
of
all
holy
that,
grails, doesn't he?
is absurd.
Right.
And so we say that passionately, and playing devil's advocate, people say, you don't necessarily really know the demons people have. You don't necessarily know what they're going through,
And see, this bothers me. We don't know the demons that people have. Well, nobody said anything about anybody having demons, correct? So it's almost like you're inserting this idea that somehow the fine doctor was burdened with all sorts of nefarious bad acts. I find that very hard to believe. The guy is working 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours, and 12 hours, and he's 49 years old. Why? Because he needs money, I think. Because their company perhaps is in trouble. Why are we having all this cloak and dagger, oh, we don't know the demons that men, deal with. We don't know. Why? And I'll be honest with you. Listening to the this kind of dark smoke and mirrors kind of spy talk, what's it, spycraft talk. That's what got me going down the crypto rabbit hole. I said, okay, well, this man seems very he seems really oriented toward the idea that something rather extraordinary happened to this doctor, that he was involved with some really crazy people. And then when you find out that the website is primarily visited by people from the Russian Federation, and then you notice the connections between Ruja, the crypto queen, and the marketing that was used for John Forsyth's cryptocurrency, then you're like, oh God, who could make this up? And at one point, it was so convenient that I said, we're totally being hacked. I mean, not hacked, punked. We're totally being punked. This is a story being made up by someone that want us YouTubers, armchair detectives, they want us to pick this up because it's all BS. It's not real. That literally went through my mind because things were so uncannily fitting together like a nice little puzzle. The only thing I can say is the cops, you have Arkansas State Police, you have Missouri State Police, and you have the FBI. And the company, 4 years ago, the company had been reported to the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, for financial crimes. So if this does involve some Russian oligarch, it's going to come out. There'll be no hiding it. So it's a strange story.
People can really surprise you, and I agree, but look, I'm making my case to the jury. This is a guy who is really happy. And it's not just me. I mean, many people, I've talked to family members, friends. trying to get a better impression of where he was at, just in case I missed something. They all agreed. They said the guy was riding high. He was doing great. He was happy and optimistic, making plans and excited to be a part of them. He was grateful.
But Richard, that is not what you said at the beginning of this video. At the beginning of this interview, you said that he had been down, that he had been depressed, but that when you met with him, that he was much better, that he was doing much better. Now you're giving us this view that everything was going super in Dr. Forsyth's life.
He was passionate. Suicide doesn't fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this point, there's been no evidence
Yes,
presented
glamorous
of that.
girl.
Why he'd go to a lake to do that, kind of weird.
He didn't
Right.
The context
drive
of his
himself to the lake.
kidnapping, kind of makes you, think that this was something more sinister. But we lack so much information. This is the beginning of an investigation. We've been warned that this could take a really long time, and
Right.
we may not get much information for a really long time, especially if this case is complicated. And
Right, Sketty
police have to be very careful about how they do their business, because they have to present information. They have to present evidence to a court in a proper manner. They have a lot of rules. And anyway, I probably don't need to tell too many people that. They know that. That's obvious. But I
love
so yeah,
Pascal.
we're really in the dark here, and it's
Look at
just
his
got to be said over and
facial
over again that
expressions.
we just know so little, and the police need to be able to do their jobs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. There's a lot of holes in the story. Let's be real. Of course, I do have to ask you though, was he found in the lake, or was he just off on the side? I hate to ask for that graphic detail, but I know that might explain some things as well. Was he just on the side, or was he actually in?
He's writing something
lake?
now.
He was discovered floating in the lake, dead, with an apparent gunshot wound by a kayaker.
What did he have to write down
By a
before he
kayaker.
answered that? Very interesting.
Man. Well, Richard, I am praying for you and for your family.
Oh, he's
Nothing
gonna
but
cry now.
positive vibes, and
Thank you.
hopefully nothing but discovery of the truth, because
Yeah.
I feel like that's the main thing. I think everyone who's been attached and has been affected by this and touched by this story, that's all we want, of course, is just the truth, the information, and the transparency of what actually went down here, because it could
Right.
just be something that was a solo act, or there could be people or a person out there that had a grudge or a vendetta against your brother. So I just hope
Arkansas police is treating
found.
Arkansas police is treating this as a homicide. Missouri State Police are still pursuing an investigation that they categorize as a missing persons investigation, because though they are aware of what was found in Arkansas, they still want to get to the bottom of how he went missing. Obviously, that being germane to his being found in Arkansas in a lake. So those are parallel investigations as far as I know. I know that there's cooperation. There has been some talk, since this is interstate and potentially implies an abduction and a murder, that this potentially implies FBI involvement. I know that they've been contacted. I'm unaware if they are involved. And I understand that they are not necessarily going to be involved. It isn't an assumption.
Oh,
So,
I pretty well
Right.
could
I'm
bet
sure
they're
everybody's going
involved.
to get involved here very, very soon.
Oh yeah, me too, Pascal.
Everybody.
both state apparatus, both the Arkansas police and the state police of Missouri, have indicated to us that these are massive investigations, that
I
they're putting
bet-
a lot
yeah.
of resources into this.
Just the
Just
money
lot.
involved, right?
I want to say about law enforcement.
Okay,
have been
I'm
just-
gonna say this. Y'all are gonna think I'm crazy. That's okay. I don't like this. What we're about to hear, I don't like it. It feels manipulative. I could be looking at this 100% wrong, okay? But I get this feeling listening to it, um, that the gratefulness, the appreciation comes from being treated as a special person, as opposed to, I just need you guys to do your job, tell us who hurt my brother. And so I want you to listen, and then I want you to give me your opinion on what he's about to say about the police involvement.
Exemplary. We live in times when there's a lot of doubt about the police and their objectivity, but these guys have been very impressive and very professional, and I'm so grateful to them for their hard work, for their professionalism, for their personal attention, their care.
Their personal. Well, look, anyone who loses a loved one wants to know what happened. I don't care if I'm a millionaire or if I make $10,000 a year. I want the cops to investigate in exactly equal fashion.
They've taken extra time, because these guys work hard, but they've taken extra time to communicate with us, to reassure us, to meet us face to face, shake our hands, and assure us that they take these cases very personally.
Absolutely.
This isn't just case 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the case of Dr. John R. Forsyth. And
Okay, so it's not your brother's case. It's not my brother's case. It's not the little, guy that's taking groceries out down at the local Brookshire's or HEB. It's not their case. This is the case of their important family. It makes me uncomfortable.
they've met his family. They've seen our tears. They've heard our concerns, and they want us to know that they are accountable to us personally, because this is how they.
What? No, that would be completely incorrect. The cops, under no circumstances, are they accountable to your family. That is so backwards and upside down. Not accurate. Not accurate. They are accountable to the laws of the state or the FBI, the federal laws, and killing someone, dumping their body, interfering with business, exploiting or embezzling funds. All those things are massive crimes, and their jobs, they're accountable to their professional ethics, their training, the state or the apparatus that employs them. They're accountable to the people of their district, of their state. They're not accountable to the family of John Forsyth. Maybe I'm being petty. If you think that I'm being petty, put a 1. If you think if you agree with me, put a 2. I don't know why it bothers me. I don't know why it bothers me. So do y'all think I'm being petty? He may be subdued, Lady of Angels, but it's not unusual when the shock of a loved one being found murdered is it's an assault on the body, on the brain. So it's not unusual for people in the first 24, 36, even 72 hours to maybe have a little bit of Xanax or Valium or something like that, to kind of so the emotions are manageable. So I don't, I'm not sure that, he could be just, maybe he didn't sleep all night. He could be very sleepy. But to say that the cops have made it known to them, the family have made it known to them that they are accountable to the family, that this isn't just any old dead body, I'm just like, oh my gosh, let's rewind that and rethink your words, because I don't think you meant to come off sounding so. I'm not even going to say it. Sent the link of this interview to Cassville PD as well as an ex-Berry County sheriff officer. I think that's a perfect reaction. Thank you so much, Tuesday. He's the one who stands to gain the most. This is very interesting. Yeah, there's lots of twos out there. Okay, so thank you. I'm not the only one feeling a little taken aback.
They conduct themselves, and thank you, all of you.
Look at Pascal looks mad.
So Richard, again, I want to say a big thank you for being here, sharing the story with all of us, because I know when it comes to the Channel 2 News or Channel 4 or whatever, it could be just like a 10-second soundbite, and then they move on to the next story, they move on to the next title. And so I really do appreciate you being here and just giving us more of a scope of the story, because there's only so much we're getting from what the media and articles are giving us right now. But
thank you, Pascal, for helping us to get word out. This means a lot.
Of course, you always have a place here. So if there's any more updates, anything like that, please, let's stay in touch and because we of course want swift justice for your brother. He deserves it, and the whole entire family deserves that as well.
Agreed.
So I appreciate you, and seriously, God bless. And
thank you.
But the Forsyth family does deserve an explanation. They deserve a focused and serious, dedicated investigation. Every family of a crime victim deserves that. That it doesn't matter if you're a rich doctor or if you're a teacher, or that you're unemployed on food stamps. You still deserve to know if someone committed a crime against your loved one and then have them accountable. Am I right? I mean, this just felt, I'm going to tell y'all this. This was really hard video or critique for me to do. I didn't want, here's how bad it was. I did not want to have this sort of cringe reaction. I didn't want that. I legitimately, well, I guess, for me, the very first impression, the first thing that popped in my head was the name Betty Broderick. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. All right. That was number one. Then I got into learning a little bit more about Dr. Forsyth and the information. He's living a lifestyle that would have created an intolerable amount of anxious distress. And so how is he managing it? Does he seem to drink a little bit? No. Would he even have time to use drugs? No, because he's on a 12-hour turnaround. He's living in a bus, RV, in the parking lot. So there's no wild partying going on there at the hospital. Everybody knows him. It's 5,000 people living in the town. Does he work out? No. In fact, Richard laughed at the idea that he would be out hiking around a lake or whatever, right? So he doesn't work out. So what is the man doing with this fight or flight reaction that his body will have as it is being pushed to its physical limits? Correct? And there's nothing there. He doesn't like to go on vacation. In fact, he finds it tedious and uncomfortable. And then you hear, oh, well, there's a lot of women. There's a lot of female trouble for the handsome doctor. We got illegitimate babies. We got a woman that stayed pregnant for 10 years or more, having given this guy babies. And then when finally, it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, he dumps her and trades her in on a very beautiful woman. With two kids. With two kids. What are you going to do with that if you're the wife? So Betty Broderick, and then this unrealistic lifestyle of a 49-year-old man who is working the hours of a first-year resident. It's just not realistic. He had to have been working those hours out of pressure. There was something. Now, I know it is a very small town. This area is lucky to have a hospital. Most of these little small town hospitals, or what we call community hospitals, have been shut down by economics, right? Doctor shortages. And so perhaps, and I did comment on this the first night that I worked on this, it is entirely possible that Dr. Forsyth felt a sense of responsibility to the community, correct? That he was doing this because if he doesn't, then the ER is left without coverage. And that he felt like he owed this to the small town people, whatnot. I'm good with that. I think it's noble. I've known a lot of these doctors like that. And so it comes off as being very realistic. But for a guy to be working 7,500 hours a week, he's on 12-hour turnarounds. He doesn't seem, he seems to be estranged from a portion of his family. He seems to be estranged. There's this strange Onfo coin company that appears to be not lucrative. It appears to be failing, and they do have investigations historically going back 4 years. What's he doing with all this anxious distress? That's energy. When people are upset and driven to the edge of their limits, they develop a fight or flight response. Their body has a great deal of pent up energy potential sitting in the muscles, and it makes you feel sick. It's a terrible feeling. You got to work it out. You got to go for a run. You got to have sex. You got to do something. Drink, use drugs. You got to do something to burn that up. And everywhere you look, you don't see any sign of that healthy lifestyle of, I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm working super hard, but where's the balance? There's got to be a balance for healthy living, and I don't see it. So there is rumor on the internet, and I'm saying it is rumor. There's nothing that is verified here at all, but there is rumor that he did tend to date a bit, that he wouldn't be, let me put it this way, he wouldn't be the first overworked doctor who found their check valve in kind of casual sex. He wouldn't be the first. A lot of them do it. It goes with that lifestyle of living at the hospital. It's very difficult to manage. And he could be the greatest doctor doing the most admirable job, but underneath the white coat and the stethoscope, he's a human being. And he's got to get that energy, that anxious distress. It has to be processed somehow. And I didn't find a way that he was doing it, okay? So I don't believe it's drugs. Under no circumstance do I believe it was drugs. Under no circumstances do I believe he was drinking. Not at all, not a bit. I think there was money stress, maybe trying to we do know that the crypto markets did crater a couple of years ago. Everybody lost a boatload. If you were sitting on $69,000 Bitcoin, and it dropped to, I don't remember, 14,000 or something. Man, that was, boy, talk about a shot in the foot. That was tough. All right. So perhaps he's trying to recoup, but he's got Litecoin, so that money is safe. That Litecoin, he was a multi-millionaire from that. But this Onfo coin, I think it was a drain. I think it was a financial drain, and it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. I also wonder why it is that the Russian Federation seemed to be the only people involved interested in Onfo. And why do we have such parallels in marketing between Onfo and OneCoin? So there are some quite mysterious things as you move away from the obvious hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned, right? Yeah, you can't burn the candle at both ends forever. 100%, critters. And you and I both know, critters, when you're doing that kind of work and you're 30, that's a whole different ball game when you turn 50. It's not even the same. And this is from a guy that didn't work out and lift weights and run 5 miles a day. No, that work was taking a toll on him. I have no doubt about that. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to address one of our community members who's brilliant. Her name is Indian Paintbrush, and so I thought her evaluation and comments, she drew some really great. She saw some really good contradictions as well as extensions, and so I just really, it's like a report. It's like a thesis. So I'm just going to read it, and then you guys, after I read it, you guys can go back and rewatch the interview and kind of go by her outline and see what your opinion is. You can find this very long and eloquent statement underneath the video, and so she would appreciate, I'm sure, any kind of comments or input that you want to make about it. But this definitely, it deserves a platform. So let me go ahead and address this, okay? All right. So she kind of jokingly says, I did my assignment and took notes, talking about watching the interview on Pascal's show. But unfortunately, I could not attend the live, so I'll write my notes here. First of all, I was immediately struck by the unusual affect of the brother. He found out his brother was murdered the day before, and yet I see no signs of shock, horror, or pained affect. When I lost my dad, he had a serious health condition, and we knew his time was coming, but even so, when he did have the fatal heart attack, I was in complete shock. Panic and trauma set in. My thought was, he may be showing no shock because he knew. And again, she's just thinking out loud. Okay, that's not an accusation. She's just thinking out loud. There is a short, pithy description of his physician's career, talking about John Forsyth. Then it comes to, but there was J.R. the doctor, whereas there's J.R. the philanthropist. Followed by the mini lecture on cryptocurrency, which we measured. It was 3.5 minutes on a cryptocurrency cell. How great it is. You really want to get in on that. I found this mini lecture on cryptocurrency jaw-dropping. It was intended to give the impression that this was his passion and John Forsyth's mission in life. If I were in his shoes, the very last thing that would be on my mind was the business plans that my brother was involved in. I would be screaming to the public to find my brother's killer. But we got a lengthy discourse about how John was a nerdy math guy. In reality, John's entire life and waking hours were spent on being an ER doctor. I believe what the brother was doing was projecting himself or his ideals onto his brother John. That Richard is the math nerd and the crypto guy. I have a question. Did the brother have another job, or does he only work in crypto? I think the life was based on this goal. During the cryptocurrency course, he kept using the term we in present tense while describing the company. But John is dead, so you would say we in past tense. So I ask, who is involved in this crypto company? Who else could be involved? Next, the timing of the disappearance, followed by a meeting a few days before. He uses distancing language, which we often see from people who do bad acts. He says about John, this is a guy who was ... or this is a good-natured individual. That is incredibly distancing language, and I did not pick up on it. So thank you, Indian, because it's almost objectifying Dr. Forsyth, isn't it? Think about an immediate family member who has died and ask yourself if you have ever used language to describe them. After this, he finally mentions he was a father who loved his children. Sorry, but whenever you read obituaries, the first thing you read is about the family that's been left behind, not a resume of passion projects. What you're seeing is the value system of the brother, not the doctor. I think the last time he met his brother may hold the key, just 4 days before John Forsyth went missing. According to him, John made comments about continuity of projects prior to going missing. The Friday before he made arrangements with his accountant that I should act in his place if he was not available. And that is a direct quote. He describes John at the meeting where he set all this up as being cheerful and optimistic. Does that sound like someone who feared for their life or wanted to kill himself? No. It sounds like someone whose life was about to start a new, exciting chapter that he was happy about, and that he was making changes regarding his personal finances that correspond with those positive changes. What I see possibly is John wasn't really as invested in the cryptocurrency as his brother had been. Given his life circumstances were changing, he now had a hefty child support payment and a new wife to support. He probably wasn't wanting to invest anymore in the brother's dream that he admitted from the beginning they had invested millions in but had made no profit from. And see, this possibility didn't even come to my mind. So I get the sense that the brother was living off of John's income and the funding was being pulled. Then we find out 2 days before the murder, he signs over to the brother all financial rights in their joint venture before his death, which is also no coincidence. He wasn't killed before it happened, but right after it happened. I think this was part of John saying that he didn't want to continue the cryptocurrency partnership and agreed that signing rights over to the brother, this was the nice gift that he gave him as a parting check to help him, hence the descriptions of him being a philanthropic guy. Long story short, I can see the brother seeing his financial cash cow ending and his whole life's plan going down the drain. My next question was, did John start saying he wanted out back in February? Was the mutual acquaintance the we he was talking about in present tense? I can't help but wonder if plans to murder him began back then. I'm not saying there's no accusations here. Again, this is a person who is only thinking out loud. They're problem solving through all the different possibilities, not actually saying, oh, this is when you did it, but saying, I wonder how this would have fit in if it involved the kidnapping. One moment. Was the mutual acquaintance he was talking about in present tense? I can't help but wonder if plans were beginning back then, and part of the plan may have been the fake kidnapping. We don't know if it was fake or not. We assume it was real, that he was kidnapped. We assume that the interview is factual information. Since when is someone's kidnapping a really low-hanging fruit, juicy piece of data, quote unquote? He is inexplicably downplaying the event as having nothing to do with the murder, but if you ask me, it has everything to do with the murder. When discussing the police, and I'm reading someone else's writing, these are not my words. When discussing the police investigation, he sounds like he's on the inside and was given information about the video and what it shows. But we know the police always look first at the closest person to the victim and wouldn't give important information to the person closest to the victim, or such a poor quality of the video, or did somehow the brother see the video? It seems to me already had the intelligence about where the cameras were located. I wonder if the person that was seen on the camera was actually John and not someone else who looked similar. And I think that Richard Forsyth says that. I think he talks about that you're really kind of having to go under the assumption that it's John, that the camera is no better than a potato. And so we have no way of knowing if you're actually looking at John or just someone about the same size as John dressed in John's clothes. Now that was from Richard saying that. We know, back to the letter, we know that sociopaths leak the truth in their speech unconsciously. Let's see. I don't want to say that part. In an article I read, I was struck with, I don't know who the sociopath is. I don't know what that means. In an article I read, I was struck with choice of words talking about a red flag of his missing work. He said he wouldn't miss a shift even if his eyeballs were hanging out of their sockets. Is this the analogy you would choose to describe someone's deviation from their normal pattern of behavior? You would say something like, he wouldn't miss a shift if he was sick as a dog. It seems like the body looked, perhaps this was a leak for what the body may have looked like. What I see is someone who is cool as a cucumber, devoid of real emotion or affect illustrating their loss, or concern over his own life may be in jeopardy, or the pain of John's 8 children losing their father and having their lives destroyed. I thought this very last part was so on point, y'all. It is so on point, and you've really got to give it some serious consideration. If this goes to the cryptocurrency, if they have made someone angry, if someone, look, there are accusations on some of the message boards related to crypto that perhaps this was an MLM, like OneCoin, or possibly Jerry Cotton's little shoot, I forget it. Something CX quad. I'll have to go back and pull the name of their crypto. My brain's drawing a blank. Quadriga CX. Is that what it was called? Anybody in crypto here? I think it was called Quadriga CX, something like that. I'm sorry. So there were some people that were grumbling. I think Richard does make reference to some people not being happy with them, and they were making some accusations about it's not a real crypto, it's not decentralized, it is a multi-level marketing, and that people had actually made complaints to the FTC about on Onfo for about, I think, 2 to 4 years ago. Movement in that time range. The website's down. They couldn't trade. They couldn't get on the exchanges to trade. There was a lot. There was a lot with this. It wasn't the big. It wasn't the big successful crypto venture. I mean, look at Dogecoin. I'm not going to get into crypto. Okay, I'm going to quit talking about that. Okay, so good night, critters. Thank you for being here. But I think what was said at the very end of this about fearing for one's life, correct? That if you are in a joint venture with your brother, people are angry with you about the product, and there is this kidnapping in February 22 that he made some kind of arrangement to make the people happy that were going to hurt him. It sounds like mobsters. It sounds like an organized crime scenario. And then, 18 months later, oh no, maybe a little bit longer than 14 months later, he's actually dead. He's not just kidnapped, he's dead. You're not going to feel nervous for your safety? That's a really good point, isn't it? It's a good point to think, oh gosh, I wonder if I might be in danger. I wonder if his children or fiance or ex-wife, could they be in danger of this, whoever is angry with us, right? This is a really good point, but he really isn't worried. He's very direct in saying he doesn't think it has anything to do with it. The only thing he says is something about their mutual acquaintance is being kept private for his safety, and then there is that. So there's quite a bit of double speak. At times, it reminds me of the phone call between Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow. The Lori and Chad saying, "Oh well, we can't tell you where JJ is because it could be danger." But the reality is that crypto is a very crypto does attract some nefarious characters. That's absolutely the truth. Let's do crypto millionaires, billionaires dead in 2023. Let's just start there, shall we? Here are John Forsyth. They've now added John Forsyth to the list of all of these sketchy, curious deaths of crypto kings and queens. In 1 month, this was as FTX is collapsing. There were 4 deaths. Boom, 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 dead within 1 month. These are millionaires. These are the big dudes, right? October 2022, Nikolai Mushigian, who is the co-founder of Maker DAO, well, he was found dead on a Puerto Rican beach. And he had just tweeted that he was in hiding because the intelligence agencies were after him. That was October 22. Then there's Javier Biasca, who was dead November 22nd of 2022. He died in Spain, and it was basically he was being investigated for committing what was realistically could have been the biggest cryptocurrency fraud the country had ever seen. So maybe somebody was mad because, they lost their life savings. And then there's November 23rd, the Amber Group. This was a huge, huge deal at the time. Chien Kuelander, who is the co-founder of Amber Group, this young man just went to sleep and didn't wake up, and nobody knows why. 2 days later, crypto billionaire Vyacheslav Taran, yes, a Russian oligarch, well, his helicopter crashed inexplicably. December the 30th, the vice president of Vidente, he was the largest shareholder in the South Korean cryptocurrency Bithumb, was found dead in the early morning hours in front of his house, not in his house, as if he were to answer the door and someone just done him in right as soon as he answered the door. So I want to point out, these are people that died since October 2022, not even a year ago. So October to November, December, January, February, March, April, May, about 6 or 7 months. This many millionaires, big guys, people with security, and yet someone gets them. Someone gets to them. I would definitely not put money into the selling point for crypto among the young, idealistic, computer savvy group is it's all about cheating the central banks. Well, guess who makes the world go round? Who knows? Anybody want to take a guess who's really in charge? Do you really believe that Joe Biden is in charge completely? Or does he have to work hand in hand, step by step with the Fed? They're our central bank, right? So the economy rules the country. The economy rules the world. That's the absolute truth. These business leaders and politicians, the higher federal level politicians, country level leaders, they understand that the person that controls the money, the entity that controls the money, has ultimate power. If we're going to go to Dungeons and Dragons, okay? So, if Dr. Forsyth was frightened, he had a good reason to be frightened. He's a crypto guy. He's watching his peer group be assassinated. Maybe that's why the man was living in an RV working around the clock. Maybe it was a matter of safety. That as long as he's in the hospital and everybody can see him, he's probably okay. I mean, it's something to really think about. May of 2020, this is the one I was telling y'all about with Jerry Cotton. The name of his company, Quadriga CX. Now he stole from all of his investors. They had put in about $400 billion, and he took off with the cash. But he died mysteriously on a trip to India. The doctor that was in attendance said, no, it was weird. Now, his new wife, had said that he died of Crohn's disease. And you and I are going, but that's diarrhea. I mean, I know it's more. I know it's more in depth than that, but the reality is, if you talk to physicians that treat people with Crohn's disease, it's not typically thought of as a, potentially deadly disease. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun, but it's definitely not usually considered a killer. And yet the doctor that was on staff and treated Jerry said that he went way too fast. Within 18 hours, he goes from being in this multi-million-dollar beautiful apartment hotel, suite, to dying in an old hospital in India of a disease that people deal with every day of their life. And the doctor's sort of like, well, you tell me what happened. No, that wasn't. It had to have been poisoning of some level, some sort. How else do you describe it? And they never found the money. They can't find the money. You got people that put in $400 million into this account, and they don't know where it is. Literally, you know what the girlfriend said? The girlfriend told the FBI. The girlfriend told all the investors. The girlfriend said, sorry, Jerry is the only one that had the keys to the wallet. He didn't give the passcode to anyone else. Really? You're going to lock up $400 billion in value and you're not going to have not one single backup? It's not realistic. Sorry, it's just not. So there is a great deal of speculation that the wife made off with the money and done poor old Jerry in and walked away with a cool $400 million. Ruja convinced a guy to make a trade with her, whereupon she received 69,000 bitcoins. The whole Bitcoin. If she held on to that and didn't trade it off, didn't do anything with it, if she held on to it, it would be worth 9 billion with a B today. She's disappeared. Poof. All of her business partners, they're either dead or under investigation or in a federal penitentiary. When I say crypto attracts some fairly nefarious characters, I'm not exaggerating. Right? Not exaggerating. Now, things did seem to get a bit messy at the point where the United States government decided to buy a big old block and get in on the game. It was at that point that people began to lose their lives. Now, why is that? Is that because crypto now is not the game of computer nerds, but that you got people like Matt Damon going on TV trying to convince mom and pop, hamburger joint to invest their retirement in this shady stuff? I'm in the game. Don't get me wrong. I can call it shady because it's a game. That's what it. There's nothing in there that I'm not fully capable and prepared of losing. I'm not a big roller. I'm not a high roller in the crypto. It's a game. It's like playing bingo. It's like I play bingo on my phone too. So I've got money. I've got some investments with I'm not going to talk about what they are. But it is shady. You are left with, wait a minute, why the hell did my money just double? Like what thing out in the etherverse caused my money to just double? But equally, hey me, hey, how is it that I went to bed last night and I had $6,000 in my account, and now I wake up this morning and there's 2 cents? What happened? And there's no answer for what happened other than people play in the market. If you own a lion's share of a coin and you dump it, then you can really cause a lot of chain reaction you can amass a great deal of power. And if you're just a little ma and pa and you don't really understand the fluctuations, what's happening, or each individual coin or token and how to capitalize off of its architecture, if you can't do that, then you're just being exploited. You're just being. So yeah, it's not regulated by the very nature of its creation. It was created to avoid the banks. It was created to avoid central banking, to avoid regulation, to avoid IRS taxes. That's why it was made. Do you know how all of these drug dealers, cartel, do you know how they're buying and selling their fentanyl? With crypto. The computer crime, the FBI computer crimes people are burning the candle at both ends, trying to find who are the kingpins that are moving all this fentanyl, and because it's being paid for in crypto. And it's very difficult. You cannot track crypto in the same manner that you can track a regular transaction. You can always see the block of money, and you can watch as it moves from vehicle to vehicle. That's the whole decentralized part of it. But you can't see the individual people moving from one transaction to the next, which is the way it was designed. So yes, crypto definitely attracts some shady characters, no doubt. It is a dangerous business if you are a big business. Not if you got a couple $100 in it, you're playing it like a game. That you're not going to be, you're nobody to them. But the big money, some very serious stuff going on. This man has not been sitting around. I don't think the history, the trail doesn't lead me to this idea that he is a magician in the crypto world. His history leads me to the belief that he got in on the ground floor as a young nerd, and he benefited dramatically from the success of Litecoin. And that's where the billions came from. And now maybe he's been trying to use this to establish his own crypto or whatever, and that leads us to where we are today. But you got to realize, man, these people that are worth millions and billions in crypto, do you really believe that they're just going to sit back and let people squander their fortune? Do you think they're just going to sit back and let people come in and take it? No, they're not going to do that. So, I think there was some. I think that the doctor was a doctor first and foremost. I think he got very lucky early in his life, and he benefited dramatically. But in terms of life, he was a doctor. That was his identity, and that's what he wanted to do. I do think it's a possibility that he's watching these other crypto, his peer group, let me say it that way. He's watching them dying in a very strange and unusual circumstances, even as the crypto markets are failing. As week after week, your portfolio is worth less and less and less and less. And maybe living in an RV at the hospital, living most of his life in the four walls of the hospital, that was some of his paranoia playing out, and that was how he thought he might be able to keep himself safe from whichever intelligence agencies or whichever crypto people were trying to harm him or do him in, or an angry ex-customer that felt like they got misrepresented and somebody stole their life savings. So I'm not making any statement that any of these are factual or true. I'm saying there are so many interesting possibilities that this is going to be a very exciting investigation, I think, for the FBI. I think the people at the FBI are motivated and excited and really looking forward to working on this case. That's what I think. All right, so what do you guys think about this whole thing? I'm going to let you make a few comments. We're at about an hour and 20 minutes. I got to work early in the morning, so I need to hope to rewind to continue listening. The crypto game leans toward last man holding the bag. Yes, ma'am. Agreed. Eager to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much, Jill. No, I agree with you, Jill. You're 100% right on there. Yep. What year did the government buy that chunk? Let me think back, Sketty Nona. No more than 4 years. I would have to date it by my Christmas vacations. Isn't that funny? So it was not more than 4 years ago. And was it 3 years ago? Something 3-4 years, I believe. I'll look in. I can Google and put the timeline together and give you a better, next time we go live, I'll give you a better time frame. But I know it was not more than 4 years ago. I mean, you could go to Market Watch. You can go to Market Watch and go up to their ticker and look at, how is it listed? Hold on, let me look. Just a second. So when the way I've got my page set up, so with Market Watch, I can see my first page. I see Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, VIX, gold, and oil. That's my first. But then they've got a whole tab that is for nothing but crypto. And when you pull up the crypto tab, it's got Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. That's the one that the good doctor got in on the ground floor. It's like buying Google when it was 50 cents. That's the equivalent. I mean, he won the lottery when he bought the Litecoin. And then Monero. So those are you didn't used to see crypto being shown with the tickers for the stock market, in international markets and all that. It wasn't included. A lot of people couldn't even they couldn't even conceptualize what it means. Still, I don't know what it means. If I want to be just brutally, I got a good idea for some of it, but it has another part for I hated to get into this conversation. I don't like the model of OnFo, which is the same model that OneCoin, maybe not exactly the same, but a similar type model as OneCoin. It's not proof of work, it's proof of effort. And it's a barter system. It's more akin to a barter system, but the capital relies on a multi-level marketing kind of model. It's very, well, it's not for the faint of heart. Let me just say that. You got to be a gambler. You got to know how to go play craps. You got to be willing to, put $100 bill on the line when all you got left is $200. It's definitely a gamble. But anyway, So there are the point of all of this is there are many avenues of investigation. The law enforcement groups that are investigating their portion are not going to be bored anytime in the short term. This is going to be a huge investigation, and I think we'll even end up seeing some involvement from like Scotland Yard and such, that for that international prop influence. There's no doubt that there was a great deal of interest in info from Russia, Ukraine. I mean, it just is. So, stay away from crypto, says Sammy. From what I see, it was 2020 or 19 when the U.S. bought into crypto. Scott, you are so much help. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so somewhere in that, yeah, well, was I right? About 4 years? Okay. I'll keep an open mind, but I'm leaning toward the brother. Hey, Mimi Lynn, how you doing? There's a lot of possibilities, Mimi. There are so many different people to look at. I'm going to tell you, I'm totally, I'm a Betty Broderick, card carrying fan club member. Okay, not really, but you get my point. This mother of 7 children had a lot of reason to be devastated, angry, abandoned. That's another. There are a lot of people to be investigated here. It just because Richard is the one that goes public and does an interview within 24 hours, it doesn't mean that he's any more or less likely to have been involved, but he benefited. I'm not being mean, I'm not bullying. I'm looking at this from the eyes of law enforcement. It's what they're doing. They're looking at the game plan. They're brainstorming, they're looking at the facts, they're saying, okay, where is this leading us? It's leading it to one hell of an investigation. That's what it's leading to. I would be terrified, Sketty Nona. Starting over after having 3 children is hard. But after 7, think about that, Desired. This poor woman was pregnant for, 10 years between having the baby and then having 6 or 8 weeks to get better and then pregnant again. It's inhuman. It's almost abusive. I'm sorry, but it is. If you're a woman, you've had children, you know what it's like to go through divorce. It's inhuman to imagine a mother of 7 trying to navigate such loss of identity, support, network, extended network. It's just devastating. And Diane points something out. If it's a Betty Broderick tale, then she just lost $19,000 a month. Now, it is a possibility. She's going to be looked at. She's going to be investigated. But, Betty Broderick wasn't given $19,000 a month. They took everything from her, including the money. The money, the kids, the house. She lost everything. And then was gaslighted until she went crazy. But not this mother. This mother had a really, really, really strong settlement. No doubt. Yeah. Good point, Diane. Thank you. And then here we got a new baby. We got a new baby and we got a fiance. They get the divorce is final on the 11th, and he's asking her to get married 3 days later. How are you going to feel surrounded by your 7 children, finding out, oh, okay, so you're divorcing me, and you're going to marry her, but there's a baby from another woman. Devastating. Is this not abusive? I think it's emotional abuse at its height. I mean, it in its purest form. No, there's lots of possibilities here. There are a lot of people that would have wanted that could have targeted this guy. So, all right, what do y'all think? Is this bullying, or do you think that these are interesting points? Okay, so y'all think it was worth interesting. Okay. Hey, DB. Yeah, her dignity, absolutely desired dignity above all else, right? Yeah, just being treated as a human being and not some kind of object or baby making machine. Yeah. Thank you, Sammy, and thank you so much for the help with my my poor microphone problems. Black Rose, thank you so much for the super sticker. Y'all are very, very kind, and I appreciate you more than you know. Trust me. I'm working a lot of hours and really frustrated. All right. Yes, very interesting, Scott. It is interesting, and there are so many moving parts. How could anybody not cover this case? I mean, it's got everything. It's got everything. It's got religion. It's got the Mormon aspect. We got even there's Rexburg is in the story. I'm not really going to get into that unless I find a notable connection to either the Daybells or Valos. Just living in the same town doesn't mean anything, right? Yeah. Yes, they are Mormon, Callie. Yes. And Callie, his mom and dad are pillars of the community. Springfield area. They are very well known, very well educated, very decent people. This is as peculiar of a story as you can get. It's crazy. It's crazy. Lord have mercy. Absolutely. Okay. All right. My voice is failing me. It is time for me to quit talking and to rest. You guys are awesome. I am appreciative for everything you do. If you have not subscribed, I hope you will. And if you enjoyed the video and the content, I hope you'll do a thumbs up because that helps me with the algorithm. And I invite you to share the video on your social media because Lord knows YouTube is not sharing it. All right. I'll be back. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Y'all have a good evening.